Hey everyone, welcome to SideQuest English, the podcast where we step away from the boring textbooks to explore fascinating topics, one random deep dive at a time.
Glad to be here, and I'm really excited about the stack of sources we're digging into today.
Yeah, we have a really fascinating mission for this deep dive. I want you, the listener, to picture this. You are standing right in the middle of a brightly lit supermarket aisle.
Oh, I know this feeling.
Right. It's like 8:30 p.m. You have just logged off from your primary job. You answered, 3 emails for your freelance side hustle on your commute. And all you want is to buy a single tube of toothpaste and go home.
Just one simple task.
Exactly. But you are suddenly completely paralyzed because there are 47 different varieties of toothpaste staring back at you.
Whitening, enamel repair, charcoal infused.
Sensitivity reducing, all of them screaming for your attention. And your brain just simply gives up. You physically cannot make the choice.
It's a total system override.
It really is. So today, we are looking at exactly why modern life frequently leaves you feeling like this. Utterly depleted by the mundane, exhausted by the profound, and just constantly running on this treadmill that never seems to stop. We are basically unpacking a triad of contemporary psychological and sociological phenomena that dictate the rhythm of our daily lives.
And it is a phenomenal starting point, because that exact sensation of grocery store paralysis, that is a perfect microcosm of a much larger systemic issue.
Right.
To truly deconstruct what is happening to our cognitive architecture, we've aggregated a remarkably diverse stack of source material for this deep dive.
We've got a bit of everything today.
We really do. We are bypassing the standard superficial advice columns. We're looking at rigorous sociological research, psychological studies on cognitive depletion, and cultural essays detailing the evolution of the American dream.
Even some contemporary unfiltered discourse from platforms like Reddit, right?
Exactly. Because the overarching narrative we are dissecting today is this profound tension between a society that demands perpetual, optimized productivity and the very real, inescapable biological limits of the human brain.
And we are not just going to list off symptoms today. We want to look at the underlying mechanics, like how exactly did we get here? So let's start with the first phenomenon we teased, hustle culture.
The omnipresent hustle culture.
Yeah, omnipresent is the word. Now, we all know what hustle culture looks like on the surface. I mean, if you've spent 5 minutes on Instagram or LinkedIn, you have seen the inspirational quotes.
Oh, superimposed over a picture of someone waking up at 4 a.m.
To drink a green smoothie and conquer the stock market, exactly. We don't really need a textbook definition for the aesthetics of it, but sociologically, what are we actually looking at here?
Well, what we are looking at is essentially a pathological adaptation to economic instability. Hustle culture isn't merely a trend on social media.
It's deeper than that.
Much deeper. It is an overarching societal ethos where extreme productivity is inextricably linked to personal worth. It operates on this really insidious premise that any hour not spent monetizing your skills or optimizing your output or aggressively networking is just an hour wasted.
It's like you're not allowed to just be a person anymore.
Right. It effectively attempts to transform the human being from a biological organism that requires rest and reflection into a frictionless instrument of continuous production.
Which completely rewrites our social scripts, right down to our most casual interactions. I mean, there was a fascinating observation in one of the Reddit threads included in our source material.
Oh, the one about how we greet each other.
Yes. A user pointed out how the standard response to the everyday question, "How are you?" has fundamentally mutated.
We don't say "I'm good" anymore.
No, we really don't. Or "I'm well." The default, almost reflexive answer now is busy. And what struck me was how the user noted this response is delivered with this incredibly strange, paradoxical mixture of genuine complaint and undeniable pride.
Yes, it's exhaustion worn as a badge of honor. It has effectively become a sartorial choice. When busy becomes an aspirational status symbol, we are witnessing a cultural inversion.
Meaning depletion is equated with societal importance.
Exactly. If you're exhausted, the logic goes, you must be in high demand, therefore you must be valuable. But we really have to ask why this psychological defense mechanism developed in the first place.
It didn't just come out of nowhere.
No, it is driven by profound underlying economic precariousness. We're looking at a modern workforce grappling with unprecedented automation anxiety.
That palpable fear of human obsolescence.
Right, the fear of being replaced by artificial intelligence and algorithmic efficiency.
Because the algorithm never sleeps, so neither can you.
Precisely. And then you compound that with the proliferation of the gig economy, which has systematically dismantled traditional labor protections.
It completely bypasses them.
It does. When you lack guaranteed hours, healthcare benefits, paid leave, or any predictable trajectory for advancement, the only perceived safeguard against financial ruin is just constant motion. The gig economy essentially forces you to internalize the demands of the market.
I love that framing. Well, I don't love the reality of it, but it's an accurate framing. Because the gig economy essentially outsources the role of the authoritarian, micromanaging boss directly into your own prefrontal cortex.
You become your own relentless taskmaster.
Exactly. There's no one telling you to stay late. You tell yourself to stay late because if you don't take that 11 p.m. Ray Bride share fare or answer that midnight client email, you literally won't make rent.
And the effectiveness of this conditioning is staggering.
It really is. I mean, look at the Atlantis Press study in our sources. They surveyed a broad demographic and found that an alarming 66.67% of respondents viewed hustle culture positively.
Which is a massive majority.
It's wild. 2/3 of the people surveyed looked at a systemic paradigm that structurally demands they push themselves beyond their physical and cognitive limits for someone else's capitalist gains.
And they categorized it as a moral good.
Yes. Okay, let's unpack this, because something is nagging at me. Isn't this just a modern rebranding of the Protestant work ethic?
That's a very common comparison to make.
I mean, we have had this idea ingrained in our cultural DNA for centuries, right? This Calvinist notion that hard work, extreme frugality, and relentless diligence are outward signs of inner grace and salvation.
True.
Are we just putting a digital Silicon Valley spin on a concept that predates the Industrial Revolution?
It is tempting to draw a straight line there, I will admit, but doing so misses a crucial sociological divergence. You are correct that the historical lineage traces back to that Protestant ideal of demonstrating moral fortitude through industriousness, or earning your keep.
Right.
However, the original Protestant work ethic, despite its rigidity, was fundamentally tethered to a communal framework.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, it was about contributing to the collective, building a cohesive community, and fulfilling a specific, necessary role within a shared social fabric. Modern hustle culture, conversely, has deeply eroded those communal connections.
So it's the work ethics stripped entirely of the community benefit.
Exactly. It has replaced the community with a fragmented, hyper-individualistic arena. It is a zero-sum race. You are not working to build a town or support a congregation anymore.
You're just working to outpace your invisible competitors in a ruthless digital market.
Right. And furthermore, we really must debunk the core empirical myth of hustle culture, the assumption of a linear relationship between time invested and output generated.
The idea that working more hours always means getting more done.
Yes. The psychological and occupational data is unequivocal here. Working longer hours yields rapidly diminishing returns. Pushing past our biological limits leads to severe burnout, not true productivity.
Right. We have to look at the mechanism of what is actually happening in the brain. It's not just that we get a little sleepy.
No, it is a physiological deterioration. We see deleterious cognitive decline, meaning, quite literally, your brain's ability to process complex information, synthesize data, and regulate emotional responses starts to physically degrade.
The longer you force it to focus without restorative rest.
Exactly. It drastically reduces the quality of your decision-making. The tragic irony of hustle culture is that by attempting to optimize the human being as a machine, it fundamentally destroys the very cognitive machinery required for high-level creative work.
It is literally a treadmill that accelerates the faster you run, but you never actually move forward. Which logically brings us to the next massive question. Why are we running so hard?
What is the destination?
Exactly. So we've established that people are burning themselves out trying to achieve this socially mandated metric of success. But when we look at our source material, we realize that the definition of success is a wildly moving target.
It's a rapidly shifting paradigm.
The goalposts are shifting at warp speed. So let's talk about the metamorphosis of success.
Indeed, the metamorphosis of how we define success is central to understanding this modern psychological burden. If you look at the historical archetype of the traditional American dream.
And variations of this exist in many Western cultures, obviously.
Right. Historically, success was rooted in tangible, relatively stable metrics. It was predicated on the ethos of upward mobility, secured through hard work and merit.
It was defined by the acquisition of material stability.
Yes. Achieving homeownership, securing long-term employment, providing a better educational foundation for one's children, and perhaps most importantly, building a substantive legacy.
Right. The sources highlight figures like Steve Jobs to illustrate this older iteration of success. Jobs, for all his complex flaws, represented the pinnacle of success through tangible innovation.
He created products that fundamentally altered human interaction.
He pushed technological boundaries. It was about creating something of substantive, world-altering value. But when we transition to the contemporary landscape, as detailed in the cultural essay The Rise and Fall of the American Dream, that definition has mutated.
It is mutated into something almost unrecognizable. The shift is stark, and it's heavily mediated by the advent of ubiquitous digital technology.
We've kind of lost the plot.
We really have.
Yeah.
We have transitioned from valuing the substantive creation of legacy to a hyper-narcissistic focus on the mere appearance of success. Contemporary society increasingly glorifies visibility, irrespective of underlying values or actual contributions.
Modern markers of success are acclaim, influencer status, and accumulating likes.
Yes. It's the American Idol fantasy applied to the mundane reality of everyday life.
That is precisely the analogy the essay uses. Television shows like American Idol were the vanguard of this new paradigm. They promoted this unabashed worship of celebrity.
And a desperate pursuit of fame, fueled by the illusion that anyone, regardless of training or sustained effort, has the potential to become a superstar overnight if they simply capture the public's attention.
It's all about surface-level appeal now.
In this society of surface, instant gratification is an imperative. As noted in the sources, in a highly mediated society, nothing succeeds quite like the appearance of success.
It is a transition from being someone who does something of value to being someone who is simply seen by as many eyeballs as possible.
And the sources note how social media platforms have weaponized this, turning the individual into a marketable commodity.
You aren't just a person anymore, you are a brand. You have to manage your public relations, cultivate your aesthetic, and secure the approval of the digital masses.
Through a quantifiable metric of followers and likes.
And we know that those notifications trigger a very real dopamine response in the brain. We are biochemically hooked on the appearance of success.
We really are.
But this is where the source material highlights a massive, highly encouraging fracture in this system. There is a generational schism occurring right now.
A very significant one.
The sources emphasize that younger generations, specifically Gen Z and millennials, are actively rejecting this one-size-fits-all model.
The rejection is profound, and it's statistically measurable. These younger cohorts are observing the profound burnout and the existential exhaustion of their predecessors, and they are radically recalibrating their life metrics.
They're prioritizing mental well-being and social advocacy.
Yes, and strict work-life boundaries, finding authentic purpose over the traditional accumulation of corporate prestige. The text uses Malala Yousafzai as an archetype for this new aspiration.
Someone who exemplifies success through social advocacy and moral courage, rather than mere wealth accumulation.
Exactly. They're looking at the traditional path and realizing the math simply doesn't add up anymore.
And they are also highly aware of the structural barriers that previous generations often glossed over.
They are hyper-aware of systemic barriers, issues of racial inequality, class stratification, unequal educational funding.
They know that the classical myth of the self-made man conveniently ignores the fact the starting lines are wildly unequal, so they are rejecting the game entirely.
Because they recognize the rules are rigged.
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting. If this younger generation is actively rejecting the traditional metric-driven version of success and pivoting toward well-being, why does the source material describe executive burnout as a silent epidemic?
That's the million-dollar question.
If we know the traditional ladder is flawed, why are the people who successfully climb to the very top seemingly more miserable than ever?
That is the crux of the existential dilemma. It reveals a massive disconnect between emerging cultural values and entrenched corporate reality. Because despite the growing cultural discourse surrounding well-being, the operational reality of the corporate sphere remains ruthlessly metric-driven.
So for those occupying executive roles, success is still a metric-driven trap.
It is a gilded trap built of key performance indicators, quarterly earnings reports, and relentless growth milestones that never actually culminate in a state of rest.
So they reach the summit, but the air is toxic.
Exactly. The burnout they experience is not merely clinical physical exhaustion, which could be cured with a vacation. It is a profound crisis of existential meaning.
It's not just a time management issue.
Not at all. They have successfully navigated the labyrinth, defeated their competitors, and climbed to the apex of the hierarchy, only to realize the profound emptiness of the achievement. It is the jarring realization that they have sacrificed their temporal autonomy and their psychological health for a version of success that provides no intrinsic nourishment.
They won a game they didn't realize they hated playing. And this is the perfect pivot point for us, because as people wake up to this reality, as we try to forge this bespoke, individualized version of success that actually aligns with our values, we are faced with infinite pathways.
Which introduces a whole new problem.
Exactly. Freedom of choice sounds glorious until you realize you actually have to make those choices. Which brings us to the psychological burden of having too many options.
The paradox of choice.
Yes, the paradox of choice and the cognitive tax of daily life.
This brings us to the foundational work of psychologist Barry Schwartz. The premise of the paradox of choice is deeply counterintuitive to Western capitalist orthodoxy.
Because we're taught more is always better.
Right. The prevailing economic logic dictates that maximizing human freedom requires maximizing choice. And therefore, maximizing choice directly maximizes human welfare.
But Schwartz says otherwise.
Schwartz's robust research demonstrates the exact opposite. Beyond a certain relatively low threshold, an abundance of choice does not liberate us. It paralyzes us, induces profound anxiety, and guarantees dissatisfaction.
The sources give a perfect, incredibly relatable narrative example of this through the concept of vulnerable maximizers.
The example of Max.
Yes, let's look at this hypothetical consumer from the text. Max. Max wants to buy a wireless mouse. Now, 50 years ago, Max walks into an electronics store. There are 3 mice on the shelf. A cheap one, a mid-range one, and an expensive one.
A very constrained set of choices.
He picks the mid-range one, goes home, and is perfectly happy. But Max lives in our modern digital marketplace. A simple search yields tens of thousands of options.
And this is where Max's cognitive architecture begins to fail him. Because Max is a maximizer, he operates under the compulsion to find the absolute, objectively best mouse.
He cannot simply find one that works.
No, he must optimize the purchase. So Max spends hours, perhaps days, reading contradictory customer reviews, comparing ergonomic slopes down to the millimeter, watching exhaustive unboxing videos.
And think about the sheer amount of cognitive processing power that requires. But the real tragedy isn't just the time wasted, it's the psychological fallout after he makes the purchase.
Exactly. The psychological mechanism here is acute post-choice dissonance and regret. Even after Max finally makes a purchase and the mouse arrives, he does not experience satisfaction.
Why not?
Because he invested such an immense volume of cognitive energy into the decision. And crucially, because there were so many viable, unchosen alternatives, his expectations are unrealistically high.
He is plagued by the lingering suspicion that one of the discarded options might have been marginally better.
He is haunted by the ghost of the unbought mouse.
Yes, he can't enjoy what he has because his brain is fixated on the theoretical perfection of what he left behind.
That is the maximization paradox. Maximizers demand the optimal outcome in every decision, which mathematically guarantees perpetual disappointment. Schwartz contrasts this with satisficers.
People who just settle.
Well, not settle in a negative way. Satisficers establish a predetermined set of criteria. For example, I need a black wireless mouse under $40. And they select the very first option that meets those standards, willfully ignoring the rest.
They preserve their cognitive resources.
Yes, and they consistently experience significantly higher levels of post-decision satisfaction.
And preserving those cognitive resources isn't just a nice self-help idea, it is a biological imperative, which leads us directly into the concept of decision fatigue.
A very real physiological impairment.
I want to really emphasize for you listening that this isn't just about feeling a little indecisive. It's not that your brain is a muscle that gets sore. The expert sources outline how the executive function of the brain becomes severely impaired after a long session of decision-making.
It's more like opening 100 resource-heavy tabs on your computer's browser.
Right, the prefrontal cortex is your brain's RAM. Every single choice you make leaves a tab open, drawing power, and eventually the whole system just freezes.
The empirical evidence for decision fatigue is chilling, particularly when we examine high-stakes environments. The most famous example from the literature is the study conducted by researchers at Columbia Business School examining judicial bias.
Oh, wow, the parole hearing study. This blew my mind. Let's really detail the specific study from the sources.
Imagine a standard courtroom. A judge is sitting on the bench, tasked with reviewing the files of inmates requesting parole. Each file requires immense cognitive load.
They have to weigh the severity of the crime, the inmate's behavior, psychological evaluations.
And the potential risk to society. It requires high-level predictive processing. The researchers track these judges over the course of their daily sessions.
And what did they find?
Early in the morning, when the judge's cognitive RAM was completely clear, or immediately following a restorative meal break, judges granted parole in approximately 65% of cases.
But as the session dragged on,
As case after case piled up, the rate of favorable rulings plummeted. By the end of a long decision session, right before a break, the rate of granting parole dropped to near 0%.
0%. That is terrifying. We want to believe the justice system is based purely on objective merit. But this data shows the difference between freedom and continued incarceration was whether the judge had taken a break recently.
Because the brain is an energy conservation machine. Denying parole represents the status quo. It keeps the prisoner in prison.
Which requires zero predictive cognitive processing.
Exactly. It is the safest, lowest energy heuristic available to a fatigued prefrontal cortex. Granting parole requires the brain to simulate future risks. When the brain's RAM is maxed out, it defaults to no.
It just hits the kill switch. And this cognitive tax applies across all socioeconomic spectrums, but the sources show it is uniquely devastating in the context of the poverty trap.
Princeton's Dean Spears has done incredible work on this.
Right. Spears argues that poverty isn't just a lack of money, it's a relentless, punishing cognitive drain.
Because poverty requires constant financial trade-offs. When you have ample financial resources, buying household staples requires zero cognitive load.
You just put the soap in the cart.
But when resources are constrained, every single purchase is an agonizing trade-off. If I buy this soap, I cannot afford electricity. If I pay for medication, we eat rice for 3 days.
That constant negotiation exhausts the mental energy of the poor far more rapidly.
And it leads directly to impulse purchases. Which brings us back to the supermarket from the beginning of our deep dive.
Oh, the candy at the cash register.
Exactly. The physical architecture of a supermarket exploits this exact vulnerability. By the time a financially stressed shopper reaches the cash register, they have navigated an hour of agonizing micro-decisions. Their prefrontal cortex is depleted.
Their willpower RAM is maxed out, and waiting for them at the checkout line are sugary impulse purchases.
Because when the prefrontal cortex's self-regulatory capacity is drained, the amygdala, the brain's impulse center, takes over. The ability to resist short-term rewards evaporates.
It's weaponized cognitive fatigue. And while the grocery store is a physical example, we see this exact same depletion happening on an unprecedented scale with digital fatigue.
The Netflix syndrome.
We have all been there. You sit down after a long day, you open a streaming service, and you just defer the choice entirely. You spend 45 minutes scrolling through thumbnails because you're paralyzed by choice deferral.
Which is exacerbated by a lack of social capital.
What do you mean by that?
Historically, our choices were constrained and guided by trusted recommendations from our community. A friend telling you to watch a specific movie. When we lack those robust social networks to curate our options, the entire burden falls on our individual executive functions.
Leading to paralysis. And it's not just entertainment. The text brings up the exhaustion of the Tinder algorithm.
Modern dating is the ultimate maximization paradox.
The illusion of an infinite supply of potential partners. This deeply ingrained idea that there are plenty of fish in the sea.
It commodifies human romance. When an algorithm presents you with an endless queue of faces, it devalues the individual interaction. Instead of investing emotional labor, the brain calculates that a frictionless partner might just be one swipe away.
It's exhausting just talking about it. But wait, before we accept this entirely pessimistic view of our brain's capacity, I want to push back on the absolute nature of this theory. Is our willpower truly just a gas tank that empties out? Because if it is, we are completely at the mercy of our environments, and that feels a bit too fatalistic.
That is phenomenal counterpoint. And the expert sources actually bring in counter-evidence to this deterministic view. The concept of willpower as a finite resource that depletes is known as ego depletion.
Right.
But we have to mention Carol Dweck's research. Her work suggests that ego depletion might function more like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wait, really?
Yes. Her studies indicate that individuals primarily experience severe decision fatigue only if they believe that willpower is a limited resource that runs out quickly.
So our belief about our own endurance actually alters our biological endurance.
Exactly. Those who view willpower as an abundant, self-generating resource do not show the same drop in performance. Furthermore, we have to note that massive replication studies involving 23 independent labs failed to definitively prove ego depletion.
23 labs failed to replicate it. That's huge.
It is. It implies that while cognitive fatigue is real, the mechanical gas tank model is a vast oversimplification. Human endurance is profoundly mediated by motivation and belief systems.
Okay, so if we synthesize all of this, if we are exhausted by the performative exhaustion of hustle culture, disillusioned by traditional success, and paralyzed by infinite choices, but we also know our willpower isn't totally fixed, how do we actually reclaim our agency?
What are the antidotes?
Right. The source material offers some conceptual remedies. Let's start with the first one, slow living.
Yes, slow living, which is often misunderstood. It originated in 1980s Italy as a literal protest against fast food.
Specifically, the opening of McDonald's in Rome.
No, exactly. It began as the slow food movement, emphasizing quality over quantity. But it expanded into a comprehensive philosophy. Slow living is about deliberately aligning your daily choices with your personal values,
rather than surrendering to the hyper-accelerated tempo of the market. And the second remedy complements this perfectly, the Japanese philosophy of ikigai.
often translated as a reason for being.
I love the specific examples of ikigai from the text. Let's talk about June the mechanic.
June is a perfect example. In the Western paradigm, June might be viewed as lacking ambition because he isn't trying to franchise his garage. But June has profound ikigai.
His purpose is located in the 10 minutes he spends every morning teaching his apprentices to listen to the subtle vibrations of an engine.
He finds deep meaning and societal contribution in painstakingly passing on a fragment of his craft.
And then there is Mika, the woman caring for her aging mother. Her life is physically restricted, but her ikigai is found in the deliberate sensory details. She finds meaning in photographing the light on the floor while caring for her mother.
Those grounded examples illustrate the pitfalls of the Western approach to finding purpose.
Because in the West, we often wait for a grand, pre-existing passion to strike us. Or we fall into the trap of comparing our lives on social media.
Exactly. We think our purpose must be a world-changing destiny. Ikigai teaches that meaning emerges through daily practice and small units of action, not grand epiphanies.
And I think younger generations are grasping this. The sources pair this with the Gen Z trend of break culture and quiet quitting.
Which is fascinating to analyze objectively. From a systemic standpoint, quiet quitting functions as a legitimate defense mechanism against toxic productivity.
It's employees deciding to fulfill their contractual job description and nothing more. By doing so, they are actively reclaiming their time for their own personal ikigai.
It is the practical application of stepping away from hustle culture.
So what does this all mean? When we look at everything, it seems the antidote isn't about escaping society. It's about a radical recalibration of our attention. To concisely tie these three themes together, redefining success allows us to curate our choices.
Right, because we stop caring about options that don't align with our values.
Exactly. And that curation naturally reduces decision fatigue, which in turn frees us from the performative exhaustion of hustle culture.
It all connects. I want to leave you, the listener, with a final lingering idea to mull over. In a hyper-optimized world that constantly demands we maximize our choices, monetize our hobbies, and broadcast our successes, perhaps the most radical, rebellious act a person can commit today is simply choosing to be content with enough. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take a moment today to step off the treadmill, take a deep breath, and just be.